Last year, I was writing my personal essay for my college application. I'm an artist, so I wanted to write about my in-depth creative process and artistic journey. Excited by my ideas, I jumped right into the writing process. But suddenly, a penetrating voice in my head shouted at me, "You can't do this. You're not capable of making this good. You're not getting into college, so why bother trying?" This was the same voice that told me I couldn't get A's in school and that I couldn't found and lead a women's entrepreneurship club. This is my inner voice, or as Arianna Huffington, writer and founder of Huffington Post, would refer to her as the obnoxious roommate inside your head. She second guesses my every move, stops me from trying new things, and slyly discourages my attempts at resilience. Have you ever heard the saying, "You are your own worst enemy"? Well, my enemy is the obnoxious roommate. But here's what I've learned: only if you let it. Since what you resist persists, you must find a middle ground, a way to coexist in an environment of peace, or redirect your enemy so that you can find your own peace. Arianna Huffington says that in her early 20s, she struggled greatly with this obnoxious roommate inside her head. So her solution was to evict it. She noticed it was most obnoxious when she tapped into her perfectionist tendencies. By reminding herself that mistakes made her a failure, turned the volume up on her inner critic. She eventually learned to embrace mistakes and understood they made her human, resulting in the eviction of her obnoxious roommate. Last year, this inspired me to begin practicing methods to evict the obnoxious roommate inside my head. How could I turn down this penetrating, aggravating voice of self-doubt to the degree Arianna did? I quickly realized this was going to take practice, and I would have to commit. With the reality of me entering college soon, I knew I would be living with one or possibly more roommates. It was at this moment I realized if I wanted to find a balance for my studying, extracurriculars, socializing, and personal downtime, I had to learn to turn my voice down, fast. In the process of searching for my college roommate, I learned a valuable lesson about being honest with the obnoxious roommate inside my head. When finding my roommate, I filled out a questionnaire and then eventually reached out to my matches. I searched their names on Instagram, TikTok, and got their Snapchats. I spoke to a number of potential roommates before I found one. My roommate sent me a very long and specific list of questions, saying, for example, do you have a certain room aesthetic you love, and what is your ideal temperature in the room? Our answers were mostly similar, but this was not the main reason why I picked her. I picked her for the very long and detailed specific list of questions she asked me, because no other girl I spoke with was as specific and looking for as honest answers as she was. There is no assurance you will find a perfectly suitable roommate, but asking such a specific list of questions almost guarantees it. And being honest with your answers too. We all have the obnoxious roommate inside our head, whether we'd like to admit it or not. They are invasive, rude, critical, negative, and always the devil's advocate. I realized that I was resisting my roommate even before getting to know her. I needed to ask her a list of questions as specific as my college roommate asked me to understand her. Only then could we create compromises and eventually learn to coexist with each other. But this was going to take multiple tries. Before leaving for college, I took time to self-reflect. I asked myself honest and pretty basic questions like, what are my insecurities and what do or don't I like? It made me aware of what triggered my inner voice, and I trialed through different methods to eventually coexist with it. The transition from home to college is hard for most college students. I imagine that not knowing how to find personal downtime while living with roommates, in addition to the one inside your head, can negatively affect a student's mental health. During my short time at college, I've used the following methods to find a healthy balance for all three. So here are my tips and knowledge on how to manage your obnoxious roommate inside your head to make life at college and all of its demands easier on yourself. Firstly, and most importantly, create affirmations. I love this definition of an affirmation: the assertion that something exists or is true. Affirmations serve to remind and reinforce your goals. You write them down in present tense and either speak them out or read them in your head. Writing them down in present tense as if they are already true makes your actions work toward the goal, because in your affirmation, you are already living it. I say affirmations daily to myself about the grades I want to achieve and the qualities I want to possess. They must always be positive, excluding the words don't, can't, and won't. Affirmations create positive self-talk. I can't emphasize enough how important positive self-talk is. Once you implement affirmations daily, you will be in control of your thoughts, not your inner voice. Break the pattern. Redirect your neural pathways. Tony Robbins is an inspiring example of breaking neural pathways. When he had negative thoughts, he would jump into an ice bath to shock his body and remind himself he was in control, not his inner voice. It's hard to be as committed as Tony Robbins, but there are similar things you can do, like taking a cold shower twice a week or simply moving your body. When you feel your inner critic beating down on you, it's so hard to get out of. The best thing that you can do to remind yourself you are in control is by meditating, moving your body with exercise, or doing breathing exercises. Limit social media use. Social media is so toxic. Sometimes when I'm on social media for a long time, I hear my inner critic shouting at me words of self-doubt. I feel more stress when I'm on social media than looking at my packed schedule. It feeds my inner critic because I look at myself from an outside perspective and judge myself. And I don't gain anything from it. But social media is addictive. Now, I'm someone that has about every social media app, from TikTok to Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, Be Real, and probably a couple more. To avoid the negative effects of social media, don't check your phone when you wake up and right before going to sleep. Don't check it in between breaks of working, and set a daily time limit on the apps. I see a drastic difference when I limit my time on social media. I am less self-critical and self-judgmental, and more focused on my larger goals. Overall, I'm more present because being off social media puts things into perspective. I definitely have my days of extreme self-doubt and sometimes go on social media to bury myself in it. But the more I practice limiting my time on social media, the kinder I am to myself. Therefore, I hear my inner critic way less. Last but not least is to journal. Set a time in the day to write down your thoughts. This connects you to yourself and makes you honest with yourself. Word vomit on paper so it's not stuck in your head. I noticed from journaling that my inner voice was pouring out my personal fears and self-doubt. But the more I journal, the more I try being nice with myself on paper. The kinder I am on paper, the kinder and easier my inner voice is on me. Seeing the words on paper gives clarity and frees up headspace. Being in a small space with 2 roommates in college with thoughts spiraling in my head at times, I don't always want to share what's going on. I wish my parents or family members were there in person to talk to. But since I don't really have this option, I go to my journal to write my thoughts. And it helps me every time. I set a time in my nighttime routine to journal. The more I did this, the more it became habitual. According to James Clear, author of the #1 New York Times bestseller, Atomic Habits, on average, it takes about 2 months before a new behavior becomes automatic. 66 days to be exact. So, start now. The reality of living in a triple in college, in addition to the obnoxious roommate inside my head, made me realize that I need to be fully, totally, 100% committed to coexisting with the 3 of them to live a happy and healthy life at college. I can assure you that if you commit by implementing these strategies and practices into your daily life, you will be able to not only coexist with your obnoxious roommate, but it will create a ripple effect for your entire life.